A young woman hailed a taxi in Nanjing, China. She was just 22 years old, her destination the Chinese border with Myanmar. The taxi driver, a seasoned veteran of the road, sensed something was amiss. He had heard whispers of young people lured to Myanmar with promises of easy money. These whispers often ended in tragedy. He tried to warn her, to turn her back from the path she was about to take, but the young woman was determined. She believed she was on her way to a better life. She was wrong. The taxi driver's warnings were not unfounded. The young woman was heading into the heart of a sprawling criminal enterprise, a den of scams and exploitation hidden in plain sight. She was heading to Shwe, Kokko, a city built on deceit where dreams turned into nightmares. Her story is not unique. Countless others have been lured to this city, their hopes shattered by the harsh reality of exploitation and abuse. This is the story of Shwe Kokko, the dark side of China's Belt and Road Initiative, where greed and corruption have flourished in the shadows of progress. Shwe Kokko, meaning golden rain tree in Burmese, sounds idyllic. But this city, nestled in Myanmar's Karen state near the Thai border, is anything but. Built on land leased from a local militia, Shwe Kokko was envisioned as a shining example of China's Belt and Road Initiative, a project aimed at connecting China to the world through infrastructure and investment. However, behind the facade of gleaming high-rises and promises of economic prosperity, a darker truth festered. Shwe Kokko quickly transformed into a hub for criminal activity. Casinos, fraudulent investment schemes, and online scams became its lifeblood. Thousands, many of them Chinese nationals, found themselves trapped in a web of exploitation, their passports confiscated, their lives held hostage by ruthless criminal gangs. The city became a no-go zone for most, shrouded in secrecy and fear. The promise of the golden rain tree had wilted, replaced by the stench of corruption and despair. Shwe Kokko stands as a stark reminder of the potential for the Belt and Road Initiative to be exploited, its noble intentions twisted to serve the interests of criminals. Who are the individuals behind this den of iniquity? At the helm of this criminal enterprise was Shwe Zhijiang, a Chinese businessman with a murky past. Xi, through his company Yatai International Holdings Group, poured millions into building Shwe Kokko, promising a thriving hub of entertainment and tourism. However, his true intentions soon became clear. Xi, it turned out, was a master manipulator, adept at exploiting the loopholes in both Chinese and Myanmar law. Another key player in this saga is Sorchit Thu, a leader of the Karen Border Guard Force, a militia operating in the region. Sorchit Thu provided the muscle, ensuring the smooth operation of the scam centers and protecting them from interference. His militia, accused of human rights abuses and drug trafficking, found a lucrative partnership with the Chinese criminal syndicates. Then there's Wang Xing, a Chinese actor whose story brought the horrors of Shwe Kokko into sharp focus. Lured to the city with promises of lucrative film roles, Wang found himself kidnapped and forced to work in the scam centers. His harrowing escape and subsequent public outcry peeled back the layers of secrecy surrounding Shwe Kokko, exposing the human cost of the city's dark underbelly. These individuals, driven by greed and a blatant disregard for human life, are the architects of this modern-day slave trade. Their actions have had devastating consequences, leaving countless lives shattered and families torn apart. What exactly are these scams that fuel Shwe Kokko's dark economy? The city's criminal networks have perfected the art of deception, employing sophisticated methods to defraud unsuspecting victims worldwide. One common tactic involves online romance scams. Perpetrators, posing as attractive individuals seeking love and companionship, target victims on dating websites and social media platforms. They invest time and effort in building online relationships, showering their victims with affection and attention, only to later fabricate elaborate stories of personal emergencies to extort money. Another prevalent scheme involves cryptocurrency investment scams. Exploiting the growing popularity and complexity of cryptocurrencies, scammers entice victims with promises of quick and easy profits. They create fake investment platforms, often mimicking legitimate websites, and use high-pressure sales tactics to lure victims into investing large sums of money. Once the money is transferred, it vanishes into thin air, leaving the victims financially devastated. These scams, often operating with impunity, have netted billions of dollars for the criminal networks operating in Shwe. The victims, often from vulnerable backgrounds, are left grappling with financial ruin, emotional trauma, and a profound sense of betrayal. Section 5. China's response, a delicate balancing act. The Chinese government, initially silent on the issue, has come under increasing pressure to address the crisis in Shwe. Public outrage, fueled by stories like Wang Xing's and countless others, forced Beijing to acknowledge the problem and take action. However, China's response has been cautious, a delicate dance between protecting its citizens and safeguarding its strategic interests in Myanmar. China has engaged in joint law enforcement operations with neighboring countries, particularly Thailand, to crack down on the criminal networks operating along the Myanmar border. These operations have resulted in some arrests and the dismantling of some scam centers. However, these efforts are often hampered by corruption, lack of cooperation from Myanmar authorities, and the ability of the criminal gangs to adapt and relocate their operations. China faces a dilemma. On the one hand, it seeks to maintain stability in Myanmar, a crucial link in its Belt and Road Initiative. On the other hand, it faces mounting pressure to protect its citizens from exploitation and bring the perpetrators to justice. Section 6. Myanmar's complicity, a blind eye to exploitation. Myanmar, mired in political turmoil and economic instability, has been unable and, some argue, unwilling to address the criminal activities flourishing within its borders. The country's weak law enforcement agencies, plagued by corruption and lack of resources, have turned a blind eye to the blatant exploitation occurring in places like Shwe. The Karen Border Guard Force, under the leadership of Sorchit Thu, has been directly implicated in providing protection and logistical support to the Chinese criminal networks. The BGF, while denying direct involvement in the scams, profits handsomely from the arrangement, further fueling the cycle of impunity. Myanmar's inaction has drawn international criticism, with many accusing the government of complicity in the human rights abuses taking place within its borders. The international community has called on Myanmar to take concrete steps to dismantle the criminal networks and hold those responsible accountable. Section 7. Public outcry, voices from the abyss. The plight of those trapped in Shwe and other scam centers along the Myanmar border has sparked outrage and despair among the Chinese public. Stories of victims, many of them young and vulnerable, have flooded social media, revealing the brutal reality of their exploitation and the indifference of the authorities. Families of victims have taken to the streets, demanding action from both the Chinese and Myanmar governments. They share heartbreaking stories of their loved ones lured to Myanmar with false promises, only to find themselves trapped in a nightmare. The public outcry has put immense pressure on the Chinese government to prioritize the safe return of its citizens and bring the perpetrators to justice. The outrage has also had economic repercussions. Chinese tourism to Southeast Asia, particularly to Thailand, has plummeted as fears of being targeted by these criminal gangs grow. The economic fallout serves as a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of the lawlessness that has taken root in the region. Section 8. The ghost town Shwe uncertain future. The once bustling streets of Shwe are now eerily quiet. The crackdown by Chinese and Thai authorities, coupled with the negative publicity, has driven many of the criminal elements underground or forced them to relocate their operations. The city, built on a foundation of deceit and exploitation, now faces an uncertain future. The economic aspirations of Shwe have crumbled. Legitimate businesses have shunned the city, wary of its tainted reputation and the potential for further instability. The promised influx of tourists and investors has failed to materialize, leaving the city's economy in tatters. Shwe stands as a cautionary tale of the perils of unchecked development and the devastating consequences of prioritizing profit over human rights. The city's future remains uncertain. Whether it can shed its image as a haven for criminals and reinvent itself as a legitimate economic hub remains to be seen. The scars of its past, however, are likely to linger, a reminder of the human cost of greed and indifference. Section 9. A looming question, justice and accountability. As Shwe Kokko fades from the headlines, a crucial question remains. Will justice be served? Will those responsible for the exploitation and suffering of countless individuals be held accountable for their actions? The pursuit of justice has been slow and arduous, hampered by jurisdictional challenges, corruption, and a lack of political will. The international community must demand accountability from both China and Myanmar. The victims deserve justice, and the perpetrators must be brought to book. Failure to do so will only embolden criminal networks and perpetuate a culture of impunity. The fight for justice for the victims of Shwe Kokko is far from over. It is a fight for human dignity, for the rule of law, and for a future where such exploitation is relegated to the history books. Only then can the promise of a brighter future, a future free from the shadows of Shwe Kokko, be realized.